Hello and good afternoon, everyone. A very happy Diwali to all the viewers of the Hindu. And today, on a Diwali day, we are going to have this special video podcast on how is the air quality, the air we breathe this Diwali. Obviously, the point of concern is Delhi, as Delhi has recorded the worst air quality, and it's probably the worst place to breathe right now in the world. Mumbai too has been the world's sixth most polluted city, and that is why we are going to try and understand as to why is it that the air quality in Delhi and in Mumbai are bad this time of the year. Does it owe only to Diwali, or are there any other factors? And to discuss this topic with us, I have with me Jacob Koshy, who's the deputy editor and who reports on science and environment at The Hindu. You would have read his byline several times, the podcast as well. And I also have with me Sumaira Abdulali, who's a renowned environmentalist and who's the founder of Awaaz Foundation. I thank both Jacob and Sumaira for your valuable time today on the Diwali day. And
Thanks for having us.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Vinaya.
Let me first start with Delhi. Jacob, where you're sitting, it doesn't look
Yes.
all that great right now. You're probably breathing some of the worst air in the world. What
Well,
is
right
it?
now in my room, I mean, we still haven't got our air purifiers out yet because in Delhi we now have higher standards for what constitutes as terrible air. Very poor air is okay. It's a good day. It's only very poor today. But that apart, yes. I mean, yesterday was Diwali night and the day before, and over here at least. So in most of Delhi NCR, the crackers were the most visible signs of you know uh, a big cause of why air pollution spiked. I mean, that has been a concern for very many years. But whenever there was something unusual too in that uh, the air quality was in the in the poor category at least for 3 4 days ago, and it has gradually been slipping into the what is called the very poor category, which is basically on the AQI index. It's about 300, and in the high 300s, especially 350, 360. But when you look at the IITM, that's the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology Decision Support System. Now, this is a air quality forecast warning system, and they show you what are the causes. They show you and they anticipate, and using their computational models on how could air quality be uh, in the days ahead, or and on any specific day. They also tell you what are the sources of contribution to air quality. Now, even though it was Diwali night and crackers are uh, you know there have been a lot of crackers going around all of Delhi NCR, but stubble burning, I mean, this is this is the source of farm fires that are lit in Punjab and Haryana, but predominantly Punjab. It showed that on November 1st and 31st, the contribution of farm fires, in terms of increasing PM 2.5 levels in Delhi NCR, had risen to nearly 35%. And in normal circumstances, that is from October, it was around 15%. Now it's interesting that during October, the contribution from vehicles is also 15%. But in the last 2 days, the contribution of vehicles and internal sources of energy have been 15 and 3% respectively. But farm fires and is a staggering 35%. 3 days ago, farm fires was only 14%. So this is one major factor as to why there has been a spike. Now, even when you break down the data a little further, there is one section which shows what is the contribution of in internal sources and or burning from within Delhi. From what I see right now, it shows only about 3% from November 1st. So is I mean, that seems to reflect what is the fire count, or the mass count from within Delhi sources. Anyway, from Delhi, Delhi's pollution is significantly influenced by sources outside Delhi too. That is, and this is in the larger NCR region. There is it's also even across, the border, because of farm fires, and a huge steady buildup of aerosol particles that are predominantly always in the air in Delhi. So stubble in the October November, you have this influence of stubble fires, but the internal sources, that is vehicles, energy sources, biomass burning, road dust, they are all anyway high throughout the year, and weather contributes and makes it particularly worse in this time, these months.
So, Jacob, let me bring in Sumaira at this point. So, while the Parali or the farm fires are typically annually this time of the year, one of the important reasons why the air quality of Delhi deteriorates, Sumaira, Jacob is speaking to us from Delhi, which is the worst city right now in the world to breathe air. In Mumbai, it's the sixth worst city in the world. What are the reasons in Mumbai that the air quality is so low? Because Mumbai is not landlocked, is it? And it's an annual feature. We see that around this time of the year, just like Jacob has been pointing out about Delhi, this time of the year, the air quality typically turns worse. Is it the pattern in Mumbai as well? And why is that so?
Well, we don't have in Mumbai the benefit of a daily analysis of sources. So there is some amount of conjecture which we have to resort to. And Awaaz Foundation, my NGO, has been tracking not the AQI but the PM 2.5 level of air pollution for the last couple of months every day based on CPCB data, which they sometimes give out PM 2.5, and at other times they give us other types of data, but we've been taking only PM 2.5 because that is what directly affects human health. And been putting it out on a daily basis on Twitter. And what we have observed is that it was raining until quite recently in Mumbai. And until the day it rained, it was in the green category, 45, maximum 55, not beyond that. 2 days after it stopped raining, it shot up and into the orange category and crossed 100. And that to me means that there is some baseline of pollution which is being mitigated by the rain, but not by the sea. And that's an interesting thing because you just said that Mumbai is not landlocked, but Delhi is. Well, that used to be the case. But today, with all the construction along the coast of coastal roads, of high rise buildings, Mumbai is becoming landlocked. And we also have a huge proportion of construction, has changed the situation from what it was 10 years ago. And so Mumbai crossed 100 and went up to 180 or so in the days before Diwali. Day before yesterday and yesterday, after the Diwali crackers were burst, Mumbai is not lagging far behind Delhi in PM 2.5 because Delhi is 322 PM 2.5 and Mumbai is 306. And PM 2.5, we are categorizing the air pollution now based on AQI. So when I say 100 is in the green, that's AQI. That PM 2.5, according to WHO, India doesn't even have standards, but according to WHO, should not cross 20. And when I'm saying it's in the green, I'm saying 45 to 50. So it was great because even then there was construction, traffic, whatever else we had, which obviously the sea air was not able to mitigate. And now, when you have construction without rain, and then you add firecrackers, which we are told is just a minuscule proportion, you see it shoot up by the day until it goes up to 306 in Mumbai, which has never faced these kind of high pollution levels. So all I can say is something has changed. It's not just the weather. It's not just the fact that this is the winter season and that there is stubble burning in some other state. It's something that we're doing right here ourselves, whether it's construction, whether it's blocking the sea air, or whether it's adding firecrackers. And firecrackers have another aspect to them, which is beyond just PM 2.5 and PM 10, and that is their content. So Abbas Foundation has been testing the actual content of the crackers because when we burst crackers, we not only worsen the air quality, but we release the actual contents of the crackers into that air quality and particularly into PM 2.5. So when I say that PM 2.5 went from the day before Diwali, from being in say around 250 in areas and went to 306 in Seuri, that PM 2.5 which we are breathing consists of banned and hazardous materials which should not be there at all in any quantity. And they
But
include.
Sumaira, correct me if I'm wrong, there are rules and regulations in place to say that these substances should not be used in our firecrackers. First. Secondly, you have Awaaz Foundation and you have done comparative analysis over the years. I mean, we have this conversation for at least a decade, if I remember it right. And, you have been doing that work for much longer than that. Do you see qualitative difference as compared to last year, this year as well? And what are the reasons you attribute it to?
Well, the qualitative difference in the contents of the firecrackers has been slightly improving. It is not as bad as it was the first year we tested when the crackers even contained cadmium and mercury. They do
Hmm.
not contain those things now this year.
Hmm.
But they still contain barium, for example, which is banned by the Supreme Court, sulfur, um, copper. These are all highly toxic. So it's a matter of degrees, and I'm not saying that they can be solved overnight, but I'm saying that we are operating in a backdrop which is worse than it was 10 years ago when you talked to me, because we are operating in a backdrop where construction has escalated and shot through the roof and is creating its own air pollution. So, what we are adding now from firecrackers adds on to the pollution which already exists. Also, 10 years ago, this argument that we are by the sea and the sea washes away pollutants was a very valid one. It's no longer valid because we have blocked the sea and the sea air. And therefore, the situation 10 years ago cannot be directly compared only vis a vis firecrackers today. The other thing is that the use of firecrackers itself has escalated far beyond Diwali. So while the crackers come into the market just before Diwali and therefore they can't really be tested too much in advance if you want this year's stock, they Diwali gives us the first indicator of what's to come. And what's to come includes the weather patterns in Mumbai, which means less air, more still, and all those things which traditionally take place. But they also include, for example, the upcoming elections, where parties are going to burst crackers, whoever they may be. Wherever there's a win, there are going to be crackers. And we don't really know in comparative terms whether they will be equal to Diwali, they could exceed Diwali. There are all the weddings coming up, there are the birthday parties coming up. There's the whole wedding season, which is coming up along with the same season where we have stiller air and more reason for air pollution. So, therefore, I
Well,
feel crackers are very important.
Jacob, Sumaira brings up a very interesting point. Election season in Maharashtra, and that's going to have its implications on environment, on air quality as well. She says,
Absolutely, yeah.
just like Sumaira talked about the qualitative analysis of air over the last few years, as a
Hmm.
journalist who has been covering science and environment, particularly the environment in Delhi for such a long time, do you see that the issue has aggravated over the years? Do you see that there are any reasons because of which the issue has worsened, or is it better this year?
In fact, so you might it's so Delhi's seen its worst post Diwali air quality this year in the last 3 years. Now it is already very poor and the high 350s. But in fact, this is actually Delhi has been fortunate this time because we've had a particularly warm and breezy October, and in the first 2 days of November, we've actually had great air ventilation, which actually flushed out a lot of the residual pollutants in the air. So the very poor air qualities, could have been we should have ideally hit the severe, that is the 400 plus mark in
Yeah,
Delhi
last
quite
year I
easily.
remember schools were shut because it was so bad.
And it will be because October and November really isn't considered the winter in Delhi per se. Winter really starts from December, Jan, and Feb. And December, Jan is when there is. I mean, stubble burning ends by November last week or November 30th tops, and it's never ever happened that December has actually seen better air quality than November, because in December you actually see air quality go into the severe category sometimes. At least in the last at least 3 years, there have always been at least 5 or 6 days within December, and 4 5 days in January considered severe, and there is no stubble burning that time. So it's then that's because when the air, I mean, the meteorology is at its most adverse for as far as Delhi is concerned, and all the residual pollutants. Now we have the Commission for Air Quality Management. We have this air quality committee which has been set up, and they have recognized this is over time that actually it is not one state or one region alone that can control it. You need a coordinated response across five or across all the Indo-Gangetic states. We have coordination committees of all these states prior to the setting of winter. In fact, Punjab is now at a I mean, the number of farm fires from Punjab is literally one-fifth of what it was, let's say, in 2020. But that is not, it's a 80% decline, but that is not translated to an 80% decline in improvement in air quality. So the it's not this one factor is not controlling one factor doesn't necessarily lead to vast improvements. So the 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 CAQM, that is, they have very strict advisories, and they have a very elaborate graph, that is, at what at particular when AQI dips into particular grades of air quality, there are a whole different sections of sets of recommendations that come in. But it is all great in spirit, but very frequently enforcement is absolutely lacking on the ground. And the Central Pollution Control Board is tasked with doing a lot of spot checks, issuing fines on errant motorists, and checking the use of diesel sets, and but it there is only limited benefit that, or limited if impact that that they can have. And as you also pointed out, the blame game always happens, because we have the AAP in the state, and the BJP in the center, and their issues. I mean, for example, just last evening, the local BJP people were saying that it's actually the farm fires and not really the crackers that have
Well,
caused all this
that's always
pollution.
an issue. Whenever you talk of air quality in Diwali, that's a typical backlash you get. How do you
Yes.
talk about air quality? Shouldn't people celebrate festivals? So, yes, I'm sorry, but go on.
And we had this, I mean, 3 4 years back, there was this entire move, as Sumaira also spoke about, to have this whole green cracker business. I mean, where we had the CSIR needy, actually, they said that they've invented greener crackers, to replace all of the supposedly redder or browner crackers that we've always been using. So it was a bit of a, there was this move that oh, we should respect religious sentiments and let people burn, because that's apparently required, and also be environmentally friendly. But that in 2 3 years, when they were actually serious about restricting the typical sources of firecrackers in the markets, we saw very less crackers go off in the last 2 or 3 years. But I see that this year all holds have been let loose, whether it is Delhi or whether it is surrounding Uttar Pradesh or Haryana. It was like it took me back to, like, from 10 years ago, when bombs, or these cracker bombs, would just be going off, and car alarms are are going off because of the reverberation from these crackers. So I think in terms of controlling crackers, we have completely kind of lost the enforcement game, at least. But as we've been discussing before, crackers is just one part of it. The larger sources in Delhi and NCR remain constant. There is stubble fires, there's vehicle pollution, and there is the adverse meteorology. So unless uh, long-term activities are if there is unless there's a concerted effort throughout the year to address these point sources of pollution, I think we'll just keep going into these cycles at every month, in the
So
years ahead
Jacob,
too.
let me bring this discussion to the last question. Then I will ask this to you first, and then I will go to Sumaira for Mumbai. And that
Sure.
is, over the years we have seen that air quality in Delhi has been an issue of national discussion. We've
Hmm.
seen that after Parali was a national discussion, there were rules that were put in place. Now there are better rules in place, and yet you see that Delhi today is the worst city in the world when it comes to air quality. If I ask you, what are the three things that need to be done in order to improve Delhi's air quality, what will they be?
So the one of the main sources, I mean, sources of pollution is road dust, which is a constant, throughout the year. Now, the impact of road dust is more during summers and less during winters, but this requires consistent efforts at ensuring that, for instance, unpaved roads or debris, or the construction dust, construction waste, or construction activities that are carried out are carried out in a way in which dust is the escaping dust is sequestered. Now this is one of the hardest sources of pollution to control, and if we could do that, there could be at least a 15 to 20% improvement, in AQI indexes across, and this can be true, this can be held consistent across, across months.
I want to
Vehicular
ask you
pollution.
something. I'm sorry for interjecting, but last year a similar issue
Mhm.
cropped up in Mumbai, and you know what the Maharashtra government did? It put up water jets at the toll
Yep.
plazas from where vehicles entered, and any large vehicles, trucks entering Mumbai, the water jets would spray water at high speed to make the dust settle. At that time, they were ridiculed, but are you saying that that is something that will probably work?
We have it quite routinely in Delhi, but again, it is not a consistent approach. I mean, when it is before winters, or when in the in between September October time is when you see a lot of these big vehicles spraying, spraying water around. But that is only a limited way. The more important way is to check unpaved roads. I mean, because dust sources are constantly being. I mean, unpaved roads are a major source of dust. Construction dust is another major source. So fix those potholes, fix those sources of dust. That is not something which just, I mean, there are only so many trucks that can move around spraying water, and what happens to the the residual emissions that those trucks in turn are spewing when they are going around spraying water all across the city. So that is, I mean, that's important, but it is still at a piecemeal level. Secondly, you have to go back to what you were previously discussing, vehicular sources. I mean, improved enforcement of Bharat stage of vehicles that don't conform to fuel norms. You have to get stricter action, on extremely polluting heavy vehicles that enter Delhi or exit Delhi. Again, a very very difficult thing to enforce, given the a paucity in the number of enforcement officials. So a problem that happens is much of this action really kicks into gear during the onset of winter, but only if we have a consistent kind of approach can we do it. And the final thing is stubble fires. Now stubble fires have reduced over time, but there is still a lot more that can be done. This means encouraging farmers to not burn stubble but actually dispose it off in into different kinds of cleaner ways, cleaner, either burying it in the soil or actually using it as different forms of fuel where the emissions are lesser. Now this is actually gaining traction in the last 3 or 4 years, but there still is a long road to be achieved as far as this is concerned.
Sumaira, I bring the same question to you. 2 years ago, when we were discussing this, a lot of construction activity was going on. In fact, at that time, the coastal road construction activity was so high that all of us were concerned about Mumbai's air quality, primarily owing to the construction activities. Set of rules were put in place. BMC said it would implement it strictly. The green curtain started being put up across construction sites. This year on, right now, during this similar period of the year, we are seeing the Mumbai is sixth worst city in the world. Why and what are the ways in which air quality can be improved for Mumbaikars?
I think the biggest change in Mumbai has been, so far as air quality goes, has been the increase in construction activities. This was true 2 years ago of the coastal road, but it has only accelerated after that. Although portions of the coastal road have been completed and opened, there's a lot more infrastructure projects going on, and also a lot more private building going on, which includes not just building but demolition and then building. So the demolition process itself is very polluting, and then the building process is very polluting as well. So we did have these green curtains come up. Last year, we even had High Court orders which mandated that there should be some kind of barriers put up around all construction sites. I've inspected some of these barriers, and what you see is that, well, they do exist um, in most construction sites, but there are large gaps in them. There are gaps where the gates are. There are gaps in between the patras that they put up of 2-3 inches at very regular intervals, and then many of them are broken in many places also. So I checked up why there are these gaps at regular intervals first, because breaking is a matter of again enforcement and putting them back up. But why are there gaps even in the new ones put up? And the answer is that apparently those patras are so flimsy that they cannot withstand the kind of height that they have to be if you do not have air gaps. And if you have air gaps in something which is supposed to control air pollution, then I don't really know how much they can possibly control air pollution at all. And so we need to come up with better quality and better enforcement of the High Court's orders to put up these things. And I was very fortunate in having a noise barrier put up next to in a building site, which, and I realized that the noise barriers serve the purpose of the air pollution barriers as well as they block noise because they have no gaps. So, and they can be put up to the same height that the air pollution barriers have been mandated by the High Court. So they can serve both purposes at once, and they are much better than the current ones. That's one. Construction dust, better quality of construction equipment, better general management of construction sites. Many of them, even today, they mix concrete standing out on the streets, although the High Court order prevents that. But even now, there's no place inside, so they do it outside. Even if they wash the roads afterwards, it's a question of first creating the problem and then washing it. So um, maybe washing the roads is better than not washing the roads, but that gives you mosquitoes, it gives you all kinds of other issues as well. So I think we really have to look to upgrading our construction technology, including using more prefabricated construction materials, using better quality equipment, using, basically we talk of upgrading for what? To make our city international standard, as we call it, a world class city. But we don't want to implement world class construction methods. And so we are willing to suffer for the next 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it takes to actually reach that point and create this air pollution to a level where a whole generation of children are going to be sick. Because people, children in Mumbai, my whole family is coughing, children are coughing, doctors are coughing. We are told by doctors that the kind of air pollution we have is equivalent to being a chain smoker right from childhood onwards, which gives rise to a host of health problems. I think the answer is, when we want to be world class, we must be world class now. Starting now, maybe we become world class a bit slower. We don't catch up quite as quickly, but at least we have a healthy population in the process, and we become world class in a much better manner. I think that really for Mumbai, it's construction which is number one. And then everything else adds up. In the whole of Maharashtra, barring a few metropolitan areas, including Mumbai, there are no garbage disposal sites. And if you go just a little bit outside into Alibag, you will find that in the absence of officially designated sites, um, garbage is being burnt everywhere, on every corner. And that burning of garbage makes the air quality just outside Mumbai in greater MMR area sometimes even worse than in Mumbai because you're breathing in all the toxins from burning plastic. The Devnar dump periodically catches fire, and so we have a host of problems. We talk of long term solutions, we come out with reports, we come out with solutions which look more and more paperwork. We love paperwork, but we don't want to implement it on the ground. I think we definitely have, the BMC has the funds, private builders can afford it. If we were to pass this responsibility and make it mandatory for these kind of techniques to be followed, our solutions are not difficult. And I think that the people of Mumbai, which perhaps are one of the most educated in terms of understanding these kind of issues in the world, need to stand up and really demand that we want world class, we want real world class, we don't want world class 40 years from today, we want it now.
So, Myra, I agree with you. And, this point will touch chord with several people who are even listening to this video podcast right now about how the children in the family are, coughing or unwell, particularly because of high level of air pollution. My kid gets up with a cold every morning, and there's nothing that can be done about it. One of the interesting factors when it comes to Mumbai and also when it comes to Delhi is that both the metropolitan cities, have some of the best infrastructure when it comes to public transport. And yet, you see a very high number of vehicles on the streets. The more roads we construct, the more vehicles hit the street. Jacob, if I take this question to you, vehicular traffic is one of the most important factors adding to air pollution of Delhi. What is
Yes.
Delhi doing about that?
So, Vinay, the thing is, to many long-term Delhiites, let's say people who have been here since the 90s and in the early 2000s, many of them, while recognizing Delhi's high pollution levels and and the PM 2.5 levels, many of them actually also believe that the air today, bad as it is actually much better than the pre-CNG days. That is, when it was. I mean, that those. I mean, people. I've heard people talk. I've been in Delhi at least since about 2005, but I've heard lots and lots of people say that that time the air was, you could smell acid in the air. I mean, the eyes would be watering when people just rode from home to work or out on the streets. So those are the kind of unfortunate standards that
I was at Delhi
have been set.
airport just 3 days ago and I
Oh,
could
really?
sense something similar. And I said, "Oh my God, I've landed in Delhi."
Yeah,
But I'm sure it
exactly.
was much worse what you're talking about.
But yeah, so that was the situation then. That is when the thanks to the Supreme Court and a lot of activism, people actually the CNG laws came into effect, and CNG laws came into effect, and public transport, buses, auto rickshaws, they all went over there. So there was a gain in terms of the air quality in those days. But unfortunately, the number of vehicles, the exponential rise in vehicles in Delhi has kind of neutralized all of these, over the years. The As many respected groups have been saying for a lot of years, unless and until there is a massive switch over to public transport. I mean, we have a great metro system, we have great public transport buses. They cater to a large fraction of this city, but unfortunately the number of vehicles per se are also growing exponentially and clogging up all of our roads 24/7 all the time. So unless there is some kind of a curb or a major disincentive for vehicles to actually keep exponentially multiplying all the time, I think that their contribution will be in the 15 to 30% range consistently through the year, and which is a very serious and significant contributor. So putting a check on the number of vehicles is a must, but again, who will bell the cat?
So, Sumaira, that brings me to an interesting point. In London, they levy special city charges if you decide to bring your car to the center of the city in the locations that have been earmarked. Jacob spoke about Delhi. In Mumbai, also, we have an extremely overburdened and extremely efficient local train system, an aspiring metro system, a web of BEST bus service, which is questions are being raised about how efficient it is because of the several internal issues, but still it's one of the best that India can offer. And yet, as we see that the road infrastructure improves, the number of vehicles on the streets of Mumbai increase exponentially, again clogging the streets. What is the solution for a city like Mumbai?
Well, as you rightly said, most of our planning is car centric. And in Mumbai, we are building more and more and more roads. Yes, we do have an aspiring metro system, as you put it, and some of the best trains in the world. But instead of strengthening those systems and making them available at cheap prices and the BST bus system at a better price, we are building roads which are actually pretty environmentally damaging. We just talked about the coastal road, which even blocks the sea air from being effective as an anti pollution measure. Under those circumstances, if we don't cap the number of cars and we keep building more roads, tunnels under the national park, all kinds of other ways in which more and more people are encouraged to buy more and more cars, then I mean, I don't know about percentage wise because, even if your percentage remains the same and your overall pollution level goes up, that means to say that the overall contribution is going up even at the same percentage. We have hundreds of registrations of cars every day, and yet we have the new roads not using up as many cars as possible. The older roads are still choked, even the newer roads. If you go on the sea link now, every day there's a traffic jam at the exit point. And so the time which was promised to us, 10 minutes from here to there, maybe was 10 minutes when the roads were first opened, but it's a very moot point as to how long it remains 10 minutes. And when you need the new road to again be built even above this one, or, if we go on like this, because there's no end to it. So I don't see that our car policy is such that we can ever have it
But if
reduced.
I may interject, Sumaira, that's also because of ill planning. If you bring all the endpoints of all the major roads to only one single point, that will automatically become a bottleneck. It's a no brainer. The fact that while drawing the plan, this is not taken into consideration is the basic issue, because we are coming back to the same point. Really, this is an old debate about development at what cost. There has to be a multi-pronged approach when a metropolitan city is developed, especially for a financial capital of the country like Mumbai, where you have expats, where you have populations, where you have businesses of different kinds, and where public infrastructure is one of the basic requirements. Good infrastructure is one of the basic requirements for better human life and for better economic output as well. This debate will probably take us to expect better governance, because we still have projects which should have been completed 40 years ago which are still in the pipeline. So I think this discussion and this debate will continue for Delhi as well as for Mumbai. But as of now, it's almost 40 minutes since we had started talking on this interesting topic, and we are so glad that more and more viewers are connecting with us, because this is a topic that touches everybody's lives and interests everybody, and everybody wants to take away a slice of this conversation to try and understand what better can be done in order to breathe better air. But on this note, let me thank you both, Jacob Koshy as well as Sumaira Abdulali, for your precious time on a Diwali day for this fruitful discussion. And the video podcasts on important topics will continue here at The Hindu. Thank you to all the viewers for tuning
Thanks,
in today
Vinaya.
and listening in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vinaya. Nice meeting you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Guys,
you.
thanks.